Following a special panel recommendation, airlines to save 11.6 billion naira yearly from the removal of VAT in their operations. Vice President Osinbajo remains upbeat over Nigeria's economic growth, just as the Minister of Finance reassures on funding of infrastructure projects as the Nigerian capital market continues its fluctuating fortunes on minus 1.14%. This is Business Express. Thanks for joining us. We are reaching you live from the network service of the NTA. In the news today, Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, says the federal government capital budget would strictly be deployed to fund infrastructural projects across the country, particularly the completion of ongoing projects. The government, she added, would retain the capital budget despite forthcoming elections in the country. The minister made this known in Abuja while representing Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo at a lecture delivered to the National Defense College NDC Course 26 participants. Responding to an inquiry by a member of the NDC Course 26 on the use of the capital budget for general elections, Adeosun, who said 200,000 N-Power jobs have created, maintained the present administration would not engage in the diversion of the capital projects fund for forthcoming elections. The minister said the administration remains committed to infrastructure spending in high levels of the past 2 years, the completion of major ongoing projects. She further reiterated the commitment of the administration to its program of transformation and job and wealth creation across the country. She added that 3,000 microloans have been issued on the government enterprise and empowerment program. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo remains upbeat about Nigeria's economic outlook for 2018, noting that federal government expects the economy to grow by 3.5%, which is 1.4% more than the International Monetary Fund's projection of 2.1% for Nigeria. The inflation projection of 15.74% by the end of 2017 was achieved, and there is good reason to believe that the ERGP target of 12.42% by the end of 2018 can be achieved. Speaking at the National Defense College, the Vice President, represented by the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, said with regard to foreign exchange reserves, the level of $40.3 billion achieved by the end of January is already quite close to the amount of $43.53 billion projected in the ERGP for the end of this year. Given the current state of oil market, this is a target that can be readily achieved. In a mark of rising confidence in the Nigerian economy, aggregate foreign exchange inflow into the economy grew to $30.45 billion in the fourth quarter of 2017, indicating an increase of 14.5% compared to preceding quarters. The federal government has said its newly launched Economic Recovery and Growth Plan Focus Lab would help the country attract $24 billion worth of investment, saying 80% of the amount is expected to come from the private sector of the economy. Leah Katuma Batunde has this report.
About 2 years into the implementation of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan (ERGP), government has continued to take steps to consolidate on the gains. Key execution priorities include stabilizing the macroeconomic environment, achieving agriculture and food security, improve transport infrastructure, ensure energy sufficiency in power and petroleum products, as well as drive industrialization focusing on SMEs. This time, it will be driven through the Focus Labs, a collaboration with Malaysian consultants to be executed in 3 phases: pre-lab, main lab, and post-lab, with 3 main objectives: new investments for critical projects, job creation, and resolution of complex interagency problems that inhibit private sector investment.
Over the life of the plan, 15 million jobs. But it's not just from these areas, from all the activities that we will be stimulating.
The labs aim at bringing together relevant stakeholders in the public and private sectors into weeks of intensive working sessions to brainstorm on practical steps to overcome and identify challenges in the implementation of the ERGP.
The more we do with the SMEs, the more we do with industry, the more we do with all the various players, the easier it is to attract investments and the easier the work of the labs will be.
9 ministries are priority in this drive, and the first core working groups include agriculture and transport, manufacturing and processing, as well as power and gas supply. The ERGP has a target of growing GDP by 7%, growing power generation to 10 gigawatts, and joining the League of Top 100 Economies in the Ease of Doing Business ranking by the year 2020. In Abuja, I'm Lekatung Babatunde.
Many thanks, Leah. And with the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan (ERGP) Focus Labs inaugurated to drive Nigeria's push to reposition the economy on the path of growth, we are joined by a renowned economist, Professor Jonathan Aremu of Covenant University. He is also a consultant to international development institutions. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
The Vice President recently inaugurated the ERGP Focus Lab for members of the private and public sector to come together.
Yeah.
How far so far?
Well, so far it's a very good development. I think it's a nice initiative. You know, when the ERGP came up in 2017, by the time we did the second half of the year, we came out of recession. The government found that what he put up is working, but it had to work better and faster. And therefore, the Focus Lab was put in place to be able to gather the relevant stakeholders in the public and private sector to go into brainstorming and make sure that they emerge with a very good way to make sure that the ERGP becomes something that will give Nigeria wonderful testimony in terms of further economic recovery and better standard of living.
Okay, the Focus Laboratories will focus on 3 phases.
Yes.
And terminating in May. How would you look at the classification and the achievement of these set targets?
Yeah, the set targets are okay. The 3 pilot groups, which is the power and gas, the agriculture and transport, as well as the manufacturing and processing. Those particular sectors are growth poles for Nigerian economy. Agricultural sector engage substantial number of Nigerians, and therefore a little push into that particular sector is going to actually generate what we call an economic multiplier effect. Then so also the manufacturing sector engage.
Let's talk about that multiplier effect.
Yeah. The multiplier effect is that somebody comes in and then doing certain things, is going to ask for another thing, and what he asks for, somebody will be producing it, and then the whole thing just go into ripples. That's a multiplier effect. As a result of an injection of certain thing, it has ripples effect positively on other sectors within the economy, and that is multiplier effect. So those 3 areas will generate higher multiplier effect, and then the target of growing the GDP by 7% will be faster in them. The other ones will be taken care of after this one has been done with. I think, just as I heard when I was coming in, this program is to work for about 13 weeks, and then the 13 weeks, the initial 4 weeks, and then 4 weeks at the laboratory stage, and 3 weeks post-laboratory stage. I think that after we finish that one, and then we hand it over to Nigeria, then the other sectors of the economy can actually be attended to. And then we're on course. I think the good thing about it is that we have never engaged this kinds of formula before. See, it has been government doing the whole thing. The private sector stakeholders that are actually the beneficiary, and those people that we allow this program to actually have effect of the entire Nigeria has not been called to actually make their own position known.
All right, then. There's this involvement of Malaysian consultants in making the Nigerian economy improve better.
Yep.
Do you see them working as consultants reflecting the growth of their economy on ours?
I think we need to be very objective in this. That you actually take a policy from one part of the world doesn't mean that where you take it from, they wanted to actually do something to marginalize your economy. I mean, in 2010, this whistleblowing we are talking about, Malaysia put it in their own Whistleblowing Protection Act of 2010. And then Nigeria, we just came up with it last year. Are we not saying that is it to better them? No. You see something working well in one particular country in the world, you are free to actually take it. So when we are looking for a way to be able to implement the ERGP better, we saw a particular example in Malaysia, and then we take it on board. And look, the consultants are just going to be there for just 13 weeks. When they finish, and then they will now give the thing to Nigeria to manage by themselves. It's not a way of Malaysian try to actually expand their own economic space and therefore marginalizing our own. No.
But in the long term, do you see this formula paying off?
Well, I think it will, because when you actually make your economy to be inclusive of the operational, those people that are actually be at the operational end, it is going to work. I mean, you now bring the captains of industry together, the academia, and people that are one thing or the other to be able to brainstorm to make government policy work better. I mean, it's going to be okay. I have a lot of faith in it.
All right.
Substantial faith.
The Vice President says the ERGP will attract about $24 billion worth of investment, which is about 80% coming from the private sector.
Yeah.
Do you see this happening?
Yeah, well, I see it happening. We may be able to move more than that. Why? Because, you know, you can see that immediately that the Vice President make this announcement. What happened? A few days later, we heard that Britain equally recognized our dollar. The confidence in the Nigerian economy is coming back. And once the confidence is getting more and more, you see quite a lot of inflow of investment. And I'm talking of foreign direct investment, not just investment. Because there's a difference between foreign direct investment and foreign portfolio investment. A direct investor come and set up. In case of any small shake in the economy, is not going because he's directly managing it. And that is what differentiates him from a portfolio investor who actually, with a little sensible, little shake in the economy, he carries his money and goes away. That's why they call it portfolio, because the thing is inside his bag. So we expect a lot of things to actually have multiplier effect as a result of this kind of initiative.
Okay, let's look at policies and programs of government.
Yep.
Most of them are taken from the ERGP and they are contained in the 2018 budget.
Yep.
It's 2 months into the year and
Yes.
MDAs are still defending their budgets.
That's okay. That's okay. We were told that the past budget can actually last in next month. Let us give them this kind of an objective appraisal. Let us go ahead. The government is not stopping. It's not that if the budget is not and nothing happened. Well, I equally agree that they need to work on it faster because a lot of things depends on budget. But it won't have any terrible effect on the economy. No, I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah.
In other business developments, the Nigerian Naira seems to be going to be accepted in UK trade for those doing business there.
Yes.
Do you see the Naira being an international trade currency like the dollar or the pounds?
Well, it will take time to get to that position, but what has happened so far is a good development for us. Why? From historical memory, what we call Naira was initially pound. They only changed it in January 1st, 1973. And then that's when we start spending Naira. We are no longer spending pound. And pound was the creation of Britain anyway. So Britain and Nigeria has a sort of relationship, and that relationship continues. And when you look at the invisible transfers in terms of good, movement of money, not through physical goods. Substantial amount of money actually move between Nigeria and Great Britain. And therefore, Britain is trying to consolidate this position. More importantly, Britain is disengaging from the European Union. So they find a very good partner, which is Nigeria. And Nigeria is a wonderful country within the African continent. So I think it's a good development for us, for Naira, for everybody. But we shouldn't sing hallelujah yet. That is a signal that our government must be able to pay attention to very good monetary policy so that the confidence they have in Naira will be sustained.
Professor Jonathan Aremu of Covenant University, it's always a pleasure talking to you on Business Express.
Thank you.
Moving on, Minister of State for Aviation says plans are at advanced stage to review that multiple charge affecting airline operations. The planned review and removal of mandatory value-added tax VAT on airline travel tickets issued in the aviation sector will save local airlines at least 11.6 billion naira in revenue yearly. The multiple taxes being reviewed by a special federal government panel is expected to be presented to the Federal Executive Council in due course. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has announced that it had programmed to bring in 2 cargoes of petrol per day for the rest of this month in order to boost supply and eradicate the fuel queues that had resurfaced in many cities across the country. Now, how are the commodity prices playing out in the country? Let's take a graphic summary of commodities in local markets. The Nigerian stock market continued its fluctuating fortunes in the past week. Let's join Muplang Dakok for a look at figures from the Nigerian Stock Exchange and major markets around the globe.
A total turnover of 4.426 billion shares valued at 24.236 billion naira in 29,573 deals were traded in the week by investors. The NSE All Share Index depreciated by 3.39% to close the week at 43,127.92, while market capitalization closed at 15.477 trillion naira. Activities when measured by volume were led by the financial services industry with 4.005 billion shares worth 16.501 billion naira traded in 19,035 deals. The conglomerates industry was next on the chart with 167.723 million shares valued at 464.656 million naira. The third place was occupied by the consumer goods industry with a turnover of 137.657 million shares worth 5.334 billion naira. Trading in the 3 top equities was recorded by the financial services industry led by Sterling Bank, Sky Bank and FCMB with 2.520 billion shares worth 5.277 billion naira in 3,000 deals. Linkage Assurance PLC, Cape Town Offshore Support Group, And Prestige Assurance Corp PLC led 10 top prize gainers for the week, while Consolidated Hallmark Insurance PLC, Skybank, and Unique Diversified Holdings led the losers.
Many thanks, Muplang. And to give more insights on developments in the capital market is a stockbroker, Kola Oyedekun of DSU Brokerage Services. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, please.
Let's have a look at market trends last week. How would you analyze it?
The market trial last week was not encouraging. I think every day of the week we had a dip. Throughout the week, the market lost, and the reasons are not far-fetched. Initially, I think before last week, we were saying it was profit-taking by the investors. But what happened last week was beyond profit-taking. We found out that the world is a global village now, and whatever happens in the international market also affects Nigeria. We read on news that American President Trump, his tax policy was, voted for, and that one released a lot of tax incentive to the corporate organization, which they believe that the companies will pay to the employees. So that one is going to, they're expecting that one will push up inflation, and then the interest rate will rise up. And because of that one now, I think people are running for cover. And because of this algorithm trade, something like robot trade, they set targets. When it hits a mark, the order will trigger for sell. And the moment there is a mass sell now, the adds effects. People will continue to follow, and then things are going to get a bit worse.
Okay, let's now look at the various sectors. Finance, conglomerates, and services continue to hold on strong. Why is that? What's driving them?
The financial market is worst hit. Like, it also controls about 60% or even more of the trading activities. And because of the health mentality of people, people should look at value investment. There are some financial sector stocks that are not really worth investing in the manner that people are buying it.
Okay.
So it's like they are more or less overvalued. You can see the insurance companies that have been of 50 kobo per value for years.
Okay.
Because of the new stock exchange policy, now the market can dip below 50 kobo or whatever. So you see some of them are trading at 34 kobo and whatever, and some people want to make profits.
So for this week now, what do we expect? What should the investor expect for this week?
Maybe I'm not supposed to say this thing as a practitioner, but I personally have the view that things may get worse before they get better. The market is likely to rebound very soon because nothing has changed fundamentally in all those stocks, and if the results of the corporate results of the companies start rolling out and the results are very good, I believe it will affect the market positively.
Kola Oyedekun of DSU Brokerage Services, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We now take a look at the global markets.
Most African markets ended last week on a negative note. South Africa's GSE lost 1.30% to close at 49,289.45. The Nairobi SE20 of Kenya depreciated by 0.14% and closed at 3,741.02. Namibia overall index also went down by 1.01% to end the week at 1,325.24. Ghana's GSE Composite Index and Tunisia's Tuni Index lost 0.02% and 0.87%, closing the week in red. Outside Africa, United States stocks bounced back after previous losses to close the week on a bullish note. Dow Jones closed at 24,190.90 and gained 1.38%. Nasdaq and S&P 500 followed suit to gain 1.44% and 1.49%. European stocks, however, still plunged during the week, although China's demand for European imports remained strong.
That is it for now. Indeed, a lot of developments in the business and financial world. Keep a date with us on Wednesday on Business Express. I am Amina. Noujaim.